Hi, this is Micornus, Phokane, the leader and the founder of Church Governance Solutions. And we continue with this topic today. Once more, we're still speaking about what makes an excellent servant in ministry. What makes an excellent servant in ministry. And this topic is a wonderful, vast topic. Very, very important, but it's very key as well that we learn, particularly the young pastors, to understand what makes you an excellent servant in the ministry. Now, today I want to speak about what we call totally absorbed in the work of God. Totally absorbed in the work of God. So, therefore, the excellent servant is the one who's totally absorbed in his work. The one who's totally absorbed in his work. We're talking about the work of your calling. And I've spoken a little bit about calling earlier in the earlier session. I want to emphasize that the work that we're speaking about is the work of your calling. The work that is in line with your gift. When you are so sold out, you are so totally absorbed in it, we are saying you are an excellent servant in the ministry. And that's very, very important. Be diligent in these matters. Paul told Timothy, give yourself wholly to them. Because that's very key. When you look in the book of 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 15, it speaks about this. It says, sell yourself over. You must be wholly sold out. You must be committed. You must be diligent, Timothy. And he's told by Paul. Paul has been in this business for a very long time. He knows what commitment is all about. He knows what diligence is all about. And he's saying to Timothy, this is very important, that you must be totally absorbed in your work. Because if you are to be what we call an excellent servant, you must be totally absorbed in your work. Very, very important. An excellent minister is single-minded, and as opposed to the double-minded man who is unstable in his mind, all his ways as well, as the book of James chapter 1 verse 8 says. Because when you are actually sold out, you become single-minded, you become focused, and you cannot compete. And I always say to people that I've been called in restoring godly order in the house of the orderly God, which is church governance and church administration. And that's my thing. And that's what God called me to do. And that's the reason why I'm not competing with anybody in my platform, because I am called for this purpose. And I will actually speak in this purpose unapologetically. The reason is because I am called in this line. And that's the reason why I want to emphasize that when you are called in a certain way, be committed, be totally absorbed in your work, be totally absorbed in what you are doing. Because when you do that, you are not in competition with anyone, but you are actually sold out and committed to what God has actually put before you. Be single-minded about it. Don't be double-minded about it. Don't doubt what God has called you for. Now, the word translated, which is meditate, it says, it's actually meletao, conveys the idea of drinking through beforehand, planning, strategizing, or even premeditating. It speaks about that. It speaks about being focused in what you're doing. So when a minister is not doing the work of the ministry, he is listed to be planning it. Because you cannot actually plan anything that you're not doing. So when you're doing the work of the ministry, you are actually focused in planning for it. And that's very key. And that is why we are actually emphasizing the fact that you need to be planning for the work of God. Give yourself wholly to them. And in the Greek text, literally, what it does, it reads, be in them. It says, be in them. So we are to be wrapped up in ministry matters, totally absorbed in them. We need to be actually inseparable with our ministry calling. We cannot be separated. We are to be wrapped up in that ministry matters. And therefore, that's the way we talk about commitment and persistence. It doesn't take much of a man to be a minister. It merely requires all of him. An excellent minister is wholly given over to his work. An excellent servant is actually the one who's totally sold out to their work. Now, I'm doing this recording right now. It's right in the middle of the night. I'm committed. I'm feeling tired, but I'm committed because this is something that I'm sold out for. And I'm emphasizing this, that you actually sacrifice time. You actually make time for this because it is something that you're called for. And as an excellent servant in the ministry that you're called in, you need to give your time for it. You need to sacrifice time for it. Now, a pastor can have a double agenda. He can't, for an example, divide his efforts between being in ministry and becoming a tennis pro as well. And sometimes you see that. And we have seen it in our country where ministers are doubling up by being ministers and being politicians as well. We have seen that. And that is actually emerging in our generation even much more, whereby we're having people that are ministers of the word, but yet they are actually doubling up being a minister and a politician. And I must actually emphasize the fact that I've got no problem with children of God being politicians. The reason is because we are called in different areas. There are those that are gifted to become politicians, those that are gifted to become the leaders in politics so that they can actually occupy in the kingdom of God as children of God. We need to be occupying every space. We need to have politicians that are Christians. We need to have lawyers that are Christians. We need to have doctors that are Christians. We need to have businessmen and women that are Christians as well. And I must emphasize this. But when you are called in ministry, tell us, are you called in ministry or are you called in politics? Because if you double up the two, then you're going to sacrifice the other. And this is very key. And I must emphasize this because it is something that seems to be confusing to our ministers of today, whereby we chase after power. We chase after fame and being known, and we move from being ministers of the gospel and we move into being politicians. And I must really say that because God is not confused. So you're either a minister or you're a politician. And there's nothing wrong in being either one of those. But please tell us who you are, because otherwise there's a lot of confusion around that. So when we talk about an excellent servant in the ministry, we talk about somebody who's totally absorbed in his work. Somebody who's not double-minded. Somebody who's not actually trying to do a lot of things. Because if you are a minister, you want to be a tennis pro, you want to be a golf pro, you invest in money or developing a business on the side and so on. There's no focus. There's no way you're going to be able to be focused in what you're doing. So men who fall into such traps, they never realize the full potential because they have too many things in their mind. They've got a lot of things to distract them. And they drain their energy. They spend more time in doing things that they're not supposed to be doing. And I must emphasize this. That makes people not to become good servants of the ministry. And I must emphasize that. A good servant of the ministry must bury himself in his ministry. Just like Epaphroditus, I'm sure you know about this name, who nearly died fulfilling the calling. In the book of Philippians chapter 2, verse 25 to 27. And I think if you look at that, you'll realize that the man was sold out in his own ministry. In 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 2, Paul tells Timothy to preach the word, be ready. Greek scholar Eric Rineker tells us that the word translated ready is actually what we call epistemi. Is a military word. It means to stay at your post, to stay on duty and not to move around, not to confuse yourself. A linguistic key to Greek New Testament. And this speaks about sticking to your post. That speaks about not wavering about what you're doing, to be in one place. A servant of God is never off duty, but is always on his post. And that's what it means. So you cannot be a part-time minister and while you are also a golfer pro as well, while you want to be a tennis pro or a boxer while you're a minister as well. Now this is a confusion. You want to be a politician, you want to be a minister as well. You're confusing us and you're confusing yourself as well. And you cannot be committed actually when you are double-minded about what you're doing. So this is very, very important. And I know that we've been told many times that preachers ought to be ready to preach, to pray, or to die at the moment's notice, because it's something that you cannot be part-time to. If you're a minister, you'll realize that you're forever ready in the kingdom, and you're forever ready to want to deliver in being a minister. So excellent servant in ministry is somebody who's focused, is somebody who's totally absorbed to their work. Now, Paul told Timothy to stay on duty in season and out of season in the book of in the very same book that we read, 2 Timothy chapter 4, when you look at verse 2. A servant of Christ is on duty when it is convenient and when it is not convenient as well. I went home on Sunday night and was really tired at some stage, and what I wanted to do was to get something cold and drink and sit and chair and rest on my chair. But I had to soon I sat down. While I sat down, then I actually was called to attend to a matter. I had to rise up and attend to the matter. And sometimes I come tired and out of church and very exhausted in the heat of the Pretoria area where we fellowship. And come back home and I'm very tired and feel like not doing these recordings. But I will sit and record and sit until midnight actually to record, particularly because of I'm sold out to this course. I'm totally absorbed to this work. And I will continue doing that without fail, consistently so, because as an excellent servant, you need to be totally absorbed to your work. And I must emphasize that because it's very, very important for us to know that you cannot be double-minded. And I know it is a challenge to many, whereby they're not even sure what they're called to for. And when you're not sure what you're called for, then you find yourself double-guessing everything that you do. And whatever you start, and while you're on in the process, you stop it, you start something else, and you find that you're trying this and that, many things that are not focused. And at the end of the day, if somebody was to ask you, who are you in ministry, you may not be able to answer. But I'm saying today that an excellent servant in ministry must be somebody who's totally absorbed to his work. I want to end up here today, your host, Micornus, Phokane, the leader, the founder of Church Governance Solutions. I hope that you've learned something out of this. But I want to urge you, please, to continue being with us in these sessions. Remember our Facebook page, Micornus Phokane, Facebook page, Church Governance Solutions. Please like those pages. And also what I want to say in the meantime, remember our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And please click notification buttons in all those. You will be reminded when we have posted a material of this kind. But I want to emphasize as well that we've posted a lot of materials in the past that will be relevant to you as an individual and also to your church and your leadership in your church. The Lord will bless you as you continue listening to these tapes, and they will help your church. They will shape your church. You'll never be the same again. And I believe so that if you follow this material, the good Lord will bless you. Allow me to check out right here and say, cheers for now.